This is one of the most photographed C10s in North America. Aptly named Cha-Ching, this patina-covered truck and its owner and builder, Michael Roleri, are today's Haltech heroes. Born and raised in Florida, Mike grew up riding dirt bikes and four-wheelers. A fabricator by trade, Mike has become a household name in the Florida car community, thanks in part to this build and through his workshop, Salvage to Savage.
Salvage to Savage has actually been a business of mine for 6 years, but it wasn't automotive at all. My background, like I said, was construction. So I always had like that knack of taking stuff out of dumpsters and making really cool things with it, like, lighting fixtures and, basically everything in this shop was reclaimed from something. If you really take a look around, you'd kind of see what I'm talking about, especially on that side. Going out paddleboarding and find a big piece of driftwood and making a light out of it. So that's kind of how Salvage to Savage started. So that kind of rolled into S2S Speed Shop. So the Speed Shop started about 2.5 years ago. Now that we became a brand, just to kind of simplify it and with the YouTube and everything, I stopped kind of using the S2S name as much, and just now we kind of just focus towards the Salvage to Savage brand.
Mike figured the best way to promote his shop would be to build a shop car. His plan was rather simple: find a classic pickup truck, restore it, bag it, and stick an LS in it.
The basic plan for this truck was never to have this. My idea was a simple LS swap, patina truck, keeping the hood on it, and just something reliable to have fun and drive around.
Mike was actually on the lookout for an older style C10 for a while, so it didn't take long for the perfect candidate to pop up on his radar.
Interesting story is that I had bought this truck off of father and son probably 7 years ago. They had started the project, and I think quickly they realized that it was a little bit more than they could handle on their own. So I got the truck for a pretty good deal. It had a whole Porter-built, the frame set up, so it had the front and rear drop member, C-notch. So I got this truck and a bunch of parts. So when I bought the truck, it was in a million pieces. I never really saw what it looked like, and getting into it, I said, "Shit, I wonder if everything's gonna fit." You never know. It's like you're not buying something that you see. It's an imagination.
Mike's truck of choice was the classic 1965 Chevrolet C10 stepside, a popular and highly desirable platform for truck builders.
Sitting next to me is a 1965 C10 pickup truck. This is a factory long bed stepside, which is definitely different than your normal C10 build nowadays. Typically, people are going for that short bed fleet side. So this is a completely different way. This truck, I think the fact that it's slammed on the ground on bags, that the long bed actually works, and people are like, wow, I never would have thought a long bed would look that cool, but I think we pulled it off with this one.
Mike initially wanted to subcontract most of the building to a workshop. As it turns out, this proved more difficult than anticipated.
So we started building this truck with a few different shops. So I was in construction at the time. I wasn't into the car business at all. So I brought it to one shop, gave him a bunch of money, didn't do anything. The guy shut his doors down, "Hey, come get your truck." I got the truck. Then I sat on the truck, then I brought it to another shop. Same thing, gave him $4,000. Months later, nothing was done, I took it back. At that point I said, you know what, I'm gonna open my own shop. So my background is fabrication. I used to build like stainless steel kitchen equipment and like ventilation systems, so welding and fabricating was kind of like my background. So I said, all right, let's do this. So I opened up a little shop around the corner, and it was like 3,000 square foot, and I didn't even intend to have this. It was like, all right, let me have a space where I could build my vehicles and work on them and just kind of have fun.
Mike's plan of simple and quick took an unexpected turn when a guy called Tim arrived on the scene.
Before I met Tim, I had already had this, so this is a LS1 out of like a 09 Camaro. Right, so I bought the motor and the transmission, the T56, from a guy who wrecked a Camaro, and the Camaro was crap, but the motor was still good. So I started with that, and I sent it out to Mesa Balancing. They're like a performance engine shop, and he built the bottom end, all forged components, with the idea of, hey, I might turbo it, I might not. So he kind of put together a package for me that would work either way. We dropped the motor in, and then at that point I met Tim.
Tim, who is now Mike's main fabricator, pushed the idea of twin turbocharging the engine, an idea that Mike was initially not at all on board with.
Once this truck got to the point where it was either I'm going to go a turbo or I'm going to go NA, I met Tim, my head fabricator now. So this was probably about 3 years ago, and Timmy came into my shop, and we kind of talked about doing a turbo system. And at that point, I never had a turbo car. I've never even had an LS car. My background construction, everything I had was pickup trucks. So I said, wow, all right. So, he gave me an idea what it was going to cost, and I was kind of taken back. Oof, wow, I didn't really want to spend that kind of money. But I said, you know what? The business is starting to take off, right? This is a great way to get our name out there, right? So I threw all the marbles at it. Let's go. Let's do a radical turbo setup. I had no idea that his vision was going to be as aggressive. And this thing kind of looks like it will chew you up and spit you out. And it's still, I always planned to put the hood on it. And once it was done, I said, you know what, we can't hide this beauty fabrication. We put these wheels on it, we put it on the ground, and we posted a picture on Instagram. And next thing you know, the shit hit the fan.
The motor started its life as a stock 5.3 litre LS1. It's undergone a full transformation, including a complete forged bottom end, twin mirrored turbochargers provide the boost, currently running a modest 7 pounds. A T56 transmission is mated to a custom 2-piece drive shaft and a Moser 9-inch rear end. The whole package puts down around 700 horsepower at the wheels without even breaking a sweat.
If you guys have ever built a turbo car, there's a huge difference with money is going NA and going turbo. The amount of stuff, like I said, I'd never driven a turbo car, I'd never built a turbo car, so I had no idea what I was getting into. But it's like all those little bits and pieces, to get the thing done, just crazy amount of money. Crazy. Well worth it. I had bought some cheap Chinese turbo headers, and we mocked them up, and I got these turbos, mocked them up, and then Tim came in and kind of laughed at the headers and kind of started from scratch and made these puppies for me.
The engine is controlled by a relatively simple Haltech system, consisting of an Elite 950 ECU and an IC7 display dash with a basic set of sensors.
Originally, I bought a harness ECU through PSI. Again, not really understanding turbos need extra management, and so I bought a wiring harness through them, and that actually, still sitting up there. I haven't used it on something else yet, but then we decided to go with the Haltech, and that was the first time I heard of Haltech, and a local guy who does tuning kind of set us in that direction, and so far so good with it. Yeah, it's a little bit of the older model that you guys have, but it works great. All that electrical stuff, it's so out of my scope of knowledge. I'm really blessed with the guys I have here to kind of help us and get us in the right direction, because if it was up to me, I would never have done something like that.
Fortunately, when it came to tuning, Mike only had to go down a few doors to get the right kind of help.
My buddy Chris, who's actually in the last shop at the end, he specializes in Fords. So this was kind of something a little different than what he's typically used to. But he tuned it good enough that we could take it out on the street, and it has never been tuned ever since. So our goal this past year was to change the injectors and the ECU and a couple other things and see if we can't make more power out of it. But with all the other stuff going on, it just kind of got sidetracked. And we're still sitting there with the same tune. We're running off of the wastegate spring, so we're not making a ton of boost. But for a truck like this, considering it's on bags, we're making 700 at the wheel, And it's fast, man. You know, you're cruising on 95 in fourth gear and you hit it, man. It just spools and you're out. It's scary.
So that's enough about the engine. Let's step back and appreciate just how low this truck sits.
If this truck wasn't bagged, if it was just static, I don't think it would look as good, but the reason it looks great is because it sits on the floor. We actually had to put hockey pucks on the frame because it would go down so low that it would basically like taco the truck, because the frame would want to go to the floor, but the body sides would hit the floor first and just kind of like, you know, tweak the truck. So when the thing's laid out on the ground, you can't even open the passenger door.
The wheels are Vossen ERA series 19x10 fronts and 20x12 rears with wheelwood disc brakes front and back. The air suspension is by airlift.
Originally we were running an AccuAir setup on the truck. Now when I bought the kit, again, 5 years ago, right? So we kind of sat around, put the kit in, and it never really worked great. So at this point, AccuAir went out of business. So I just kind of dealt with the system as it was. I had trouble with it leaking. You know, I'd go to shows and it would air up on its own. You know, so it was all a little embarrassing. You know, as a shop owner, you're out here with a truck that's worth $200,000 and it's moving around on its own. So I ended up putting a valve in it, and when I go to a show, I would take all the air out. Right. So then, of course, when you leave, you got to sit there for 5 minutes and wait for the compressors to air up the tanks. So finally. You know, now that we got, you know, that ball rolling with our shop, I hit up Airlift. Airlift sent me out a new setup for it, and we switched it out. It was very easy, and now it works great.
And of course, there's the paint job. No fancy candy apple airbrush finishes here. No siree. Mike figured the truck needed to look as tough as it sounds.
The patina on this truck was, so when I bought this truck, some of it was in primer, some of it was raw metal. So I never knew what color the truck was from factory. It didn't really matter. So I basically, you know, as an artist, I just kind of started playing around with some patina styles. You know, I did a little practicing on some parts, and I finally came up with this color scheme. I think it worked really well with the wheels. So this is not real patina, and you know, there's a very fine line between trying to make patina and make it look real and then some looking really fake. And what I love about this patina is you don't have to worry about the truck when you're out at shows. I mean, we'll all hang out on it, eat chili dogs, you know, dropping food on it, or you're pulling it out of the trailer, it's getting scratched. You don't care, you know. I could use a towel out of the garbage, where it's like you have a show paint job. You're very particular with the stuff you touch your car with. So I love the patina. It, you know, it really works for what we're using it for, and you know, so that's pretty cool.
The truck became an internet sensation even before it was finished. The build got a massive following, with Mike becoming an overnight celebrity.
I mean, you know, everybody was just sharing it and loving it, and once we got this thing out on the road, man, it really spiked up our business. And now here we are today in this shop, double the size, you know, double the people, and just doing really awesome stuff, man. So this is the vehicle that got me here.
Despite being built like a show car, this C10 is anything but a trailer queen. Apart from car shows, it also competed in burnout competitions, acquiring even more internet fame.
Yeah, we've been in a couple burnout competitions with it. Yeah, we did, well, I say we. I have Andrew, my mechanic, and Tim are both, you know, I'd say, you know, semi-professional drift racers. So when it comes to like an event where you have 30,000 people staring at you to do a burnout, I hand the keys off to Andrew. I mean, I don't have the guts for that. For me, I'll probably, you know, go from second back to first and like blow up my truck. So I give it to the pro for that one. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun even to watch it. Yeah, this truck's got a lot of trophies. I think that was maybe clean culture. I won best of show. I didn't even know I was entered in the show. So yeah, that was cool. We also won the burnout competition at that one. The headers all the way to here were glowing so red. It was crazy. I was afraid they were going to blow up.
So much for Mike's initial plan of building a simple and quick mild build. He Instead, Mike decided to change that plan, go all out and create a slammed, twin-turbo, fire-breathing monster. And we are glad that he did.
The truck it's our flagship build from 2 years ago, and wherever you go with this truck, I don't care if you're parked next to an exotic car like a Lamborghini or another classic. I mean, everybody will stand around this truck for a long time too. It's not like they walk by and like, oh, that's cool. I mean, you stand at this truck for 15 minutes and you just keep seeing details. But there's something about hearing those turbos spool that just gets that smile on,